right, welcome to Third Do First In podcast. We are live, and we are here with my co-host Dan Haeck tonight. Hello, Dan. How are you?
Good, Keith. How are you?
I'm well. We got Deputy Chief Geno is at work again tonight, so we got Dan filling in for him. Got a good episode tonight. We got to dive into that successful trench rescue in Charleroi. Before we get to that, I want to do a little word from our sponsor. We'd like to thank our sponsor, FireCam, the one and only manufacturer of helmet cameras built for firefighters. For over a decade, FireCam has been hell-bent on making durable, heat-resistant cameras worthy of the fire service. But they don't stop there. FireCam also offers dash cams, body cams, drones, and more. Their new FireCam Blackjack flashlight kit is a must-have for interior firefighting. With 3 helmet cameras to choose from, the FireCam Mini 1080, the FireCam 1080, and the FireCam Onyx 4K, there's an option for every firefighter. Order now at firecam.com. All right, let's get right into it. Let's bring our guest in from Charleroi Fire Department. All right, welcome, guys. We got Captain Matt Prentice. Hello, Matt. How are you again?
All right, how are you?
No stranger to our show. Got your chief sitting next to you. It's Chief Robert Whiten Jr. Hello, Chief. How are you?
Okay, guys. How you doing?
Doing well. And finally, we got Captain Paramedic Kerry McCorkle Jr.
Good to be here, guys. Thank you.
All right. So I don't know who wants to start off. Tell us about, so this was what, August 29th?
Yeah. Yes.
Who wants to start off and tell us how it unfolded?
What happened was we got a call for a trench rescue. It didn't come in as a trench rescue, but we proceeded down to the scene. As we got closer, it looked like a couple people down there were trying to flag us down and telling us, "Hey, you got somebody down in the hole." I said, "Yes." I said, "We, getting our vehicles in place." And I went over and looked in there, and as soon as I seen that fellow down in there, I thought, "Oh, we're going to need a lot more help on what we could do." So as my guys were coming, I asked the county dispatch to give me a second alarm on my guys, and then asked for the county trench rescue team or our collapse response. So they toned everybody out. Everybody was starting to come on scene. Then we asked for additional resources for our water authority, gas company. We asked for a vac truck from the city of Menneson, and it just seemed like as it went on, everything started coming into place. And then the guys proceeded to get 3 of my firefighters entered the trench before it was even trench, because there was no trench equipment down in there. They went down in there, give them a lot of credit for going down in there, checking on the patient. And then we eventually got some trench stuff that we have. We got it set up and try to get it stabilized the best we can as we were taking care of the patient. And it proceeded from there. We did have a second collapse. Thank God what we did initially held up, and there was no additional injuries or anything. And then, like I said, everybody started coming into place and getting, this person, that person, this fire department. I mean, I had everybody from fire departments, the attorney, the doctor from Allegheny General, the trauma doctor from Allegheny General, to a private contractor. I mean, it was like basically trying to run a little city. Trying to run a little city for something like this, because you needed just about anything and everything to get this fella out.
So, Chief, you said the call came in as what?
It came in as an individual that was down, fell down into a hole.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm going down to the scene. I'm thinking, how bad could this be? They didn't give it like it was a trench rescue or somebody was trapped on it. It was like a man fell down into a hole. And like I said, when I got closer, the guy stopped me, and I stopped being nice. And he said, "Yeah, there's a guy down in the hole." I figured we had one probably 20 years ago where a fellow fell down into an excavation. They were doing the sewer lines in town, and he fell off a piece of equipment and passed away. Sorry to hear that. But I'm thinking maybe this is the same thing. And when I got over and looked down there and seen it, all I could see was from his chest up. I thought, oh boy, we got our hands full here.
You said there was a second collapse. Was that after you had shore forms in there already, or
no? We did what we had on our rescue truck. Plus, we used a ladder and some rope and stuff, and did the best we could. Because the hole was sort of, I'm thinking it looked like a V down in there.
Yeah.
And the sides were real wide, and it was it was a lot of loose dirt. And we put I think we put a piece of plywood in, put an extension ladder down in there, had it roped up to our rescue, and everybody was getting what we had. Like I said, when our mutual aid come, they had some wood stuff. Just start, putting it in there, and then there was like a second collapse. There was a couple nice pieces of concrete where what we did initially held up pretty good. And then when it was all done and over with, Chief Kikila from Pittsburgh told me, he said, what you guys did in the first hour and a half before all the technical people came was perfect. You stabilized it. You did patient care. No one else got hurt. And then once you got all the tech people and all the more sophisticated equipment and stuff, and then we got more. It proceeded to move on to get him out of there.
Great.
So was this guy working that excavator, or was he
no? There was two individuals. A fellow working the excavator, and then there was an individual down there. They were trying to unclog a sewer into the one business there. And like I said, for some reason, the side let go, and then from there it was, everybody had to do their thing to get him out of there.
Did you guys see this photo? There was a guy in that excavator. Is that one of the employees? Was he helping out, working with them?
That was one of the that fellow in there used to work for Public Works in Charleroi. As soon as he heard what was going on, he has his own equipment and own backhoes and stuff. He said, "What do you need me to do?" The towing company had that piece of equipment stabilized, and he got in there. They were going to try to move the bucket, and he's a little guy, so there wasn't any additional weight really put on. And they were going to move the bucket away from the individual, and then we had some other people say, just leave that machine, leave that bucket right there, because who knows what that bucket was holding, how it was situated and stuff. It could have been doing some good too with stabilization. So we just left it right there until he got out and at the end of the incident.
Awesome. So I don't know, like Matt, you want to jump in, or Kerry, you want to jump in and sort of tell?
Yeah. So actually, the last picture you had up there, you can see the back of my head because I'm laying on my stomach, starting an IV there. But whenever I got on scene, because we have the blessing from Bobby to be able to drive to the scene. So I was coming. I live in Spears, which is about 5 minutes away. So I was able to get to the scene, and then I knew it was kind of bad whenever Bobby starts asking for more resources. And then I also heard Matt starting to rev up our guys, getting them to move, hustle a little bit. So I started jogging to the scene, and immediately I looked at Matt and I said, "Hey, can I get in the hole?" And he said, "Yeah, just stay on that ladder and don't move from it." So, because at that point we didn't have any shoring, there was nothing down there. So I crawled down the ladder, and luckily he was completely awake, alert, and oriented. He knew what was going on. He was able to tell me what was going on and how he was feeling. He was telling me he was having some left-sided chest pain and that he couldn't feel his legs very well, and that he had some blood on his lip. So then I just did a quick trauma assessment from the ladder, and really didn't find anything. And luckily his arms were free. And I think that really helped his mental state, because, as you can kind of feel for him, he's buried up to his chest, and what we found was he was in a seated position. His right leg was in front of him, and his left leg was kind of underneath of him and behind him. And the bucket was about a foot above him, but there was a ton of dirt on top of him, and it was all covered up to about his nipple line. But like I said, luckily he had his hands out, so he was moving a little bit of dirt on his own. He was able to kind of feel himself, because I wasn't able to completely reach him from where I was. And then our second assistant chief came down the hole with us, and he immediately, he's a brave guy, so he got off the ladder, and he said, "I got to get off this ladder." And so I got off as well with him, and I requested some IV supplies, because I figured we were gonna be there for a little while. So I was able to get an IV on him, get some IV fluid started, and also get a cardiac monitor from the medics down on him. So that way I was able to monitor his vitals. And then throughout that whole time, I think just like the fog of war, there's, people yelling, you can't really hear anything. So I actually looked up to my dad, because my dad's the safety officer, one of the safety officers for the fire department. And I said, "Hey, Dad, go to private so I can at least talk to somebody. That way I can relay without yelling or anything like that." So then I was able to coordinate with him for a little bit, so that way he could tell the medics what I needed, whether it was medications or if they had any ideas or anything like that. And then finally, Matt, before I think I got in the hole, he told EMS, you need to get a doctor on scene. We're going to be here for a little while, because we didn't know what we had. We didn't know how bad he was. So they were able to fly in a physician from AGH. And at some point he was given a radio, and we went to our Fireground 2. And every probably 10 minutes, I was giving them an update on vital signs, his condition. We were monitoring his CO2 levels because we were worried about compartment syndrome. And I mean, we were given bicarbonate like it was going out of style to try to combat that, the acid from the rhabdomyolysis from starting. And, I truly believe, and I agree with Kekila and with everybody here, that early intervention of getting those shore boxes in and everything we could, and then also getting that early medical attention, I really think that made the difference. And I got to be totally honest, I was furious whenever I was asked to get out of the box. And because I thought it was like maybe a half hour. I was like, this is ridiculous. I should stay in the hole. But Matt told me afterwards, I was in the hole for 2 hours in one position, continually doing my job, and it did not feel like 2 hours. So after that, and then, obviously I was mad for getting sidelined, but then, back into that is we exhausted everything we had. You should have, our heavy rescue is packed to the gills with equipment, and we had almost every single piece of equipment off of that truck, and we had exhausted everything we could. And, luckily we got all these good teams around us that are trained to do this stuff, and they were there to help us the rest of the way.
Sounds like it could have been a lot worse if you didn't do those things. You did whatever it takes with what you had.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We talked about that secondary collapse, and I'll tell you what, you want to talk about nerve-wracking, being down in the hole. And, everybody was telling us that the secondary collapse was coming. And, we were all just kind of sitting in limbo because we had maybe 2 shore plates up at that point. Yeah. We had a ladder across, and then we had maybe a piece of
3/4 plywood.
Yeah, 3/4 plywood. And I kind of covered the patient up because we knew it was coming. They were telling us it was coming. And then Doug, our second assistant chief, and then Terry Youngkin, he was down in the hole with us as well. He's our engineer. They were pushed up against the boards because I think they estimated it probably around like 500 pounds of dirt and rock that broke off of that. And by the grace of God, everything we had at that moment held everything, and nothing shifted, nothing fell on the patient. Everybody was safe. But I got to tell you, it was nerve-wracking in those moments to know that something was coming and that you didn't know how it was going to end. But luckily, because our training and early interventions, it really saved everybody.
So I know we got a lot of people here watching. Anybody's got any questions, feel free to chime in and chat. Just say hello or just ask your questions and we'll get them answered for you. But Captain Prentice, wanted to come to you and see what was your perspective of the scene? You had operations, correct?
Yeah, so running the operations, and you get there, you see that right away. Like Chief said, that's out of our hands. Our goal at that time was to keep this a rescue and not a recovery. So, like I said, we carried 2 trench boards on our rescue. We got ALS care started in the hole. We put our trench boards in the best we could, in the ladder with the plywood, but we didn't have shoring there that would shoot the length that we needed to get across. And I'm not even going to call this was bigger than a trench. This was a hole. I said, when I talked to OSHA after, it was 17 foot down and a 40 by 28 hole is what this is going to be. And he said, we just wanted to focus on making this a rescue. So we're putting what we had down in there. We're starting the ALS care. We had small trench shovels, and we ended up taking some airbag plates down and putting around him, just to kind of make a smaller box. And at this time, our goal was to keep his chest open. With the small shovels, we're using 5-gallon buckets and hauling dirt up out of there until we got the resources we needed to the scene. And like I said, there was anybody who was there, I'll tell you, there was more guys than you can shake a stick at. But
yeah, I saw everybody shoveling early on. But,
yes, and so then there was the excavator they're putting their spoil pile right there. Now, another issue that we dealt with was where the spoil pile was from the excavator was the road that was hauled out underneath. So now you're worried about the weight of everything on that pile. And you see in that picture there, all the manpower. And like I was telling you before we got on here, we had fire departments showing up, and we're like, who even called for them? And when you call our neighboring county and they activate their trench team, you don't just get that county resource, you get that team, you get the departments that are part of that. So you get these stations showing up there, and like, I don't even remember asking for them. And afterwards, you find out that's how they get there. But in the end, it all worked out well. A big, hats off to Ronnie Chickatana, who was there initially helping us getting what we needed in place, shoring Chief Kakila, Jerry Coleman, Chris Chipperich from Peters Township. He was there to relieve Kerry in the hole whenever, because we wanted another rescue medic to maintain that ALS care. So whenever he got there, they were able to swap out. And it was just chaos at first from something you don't do all the time, but it all fell into play and made a good outcome.
Can one of you guys talk a little bit about the air compressor and the vacuum truck? Like, whose idea was that? Where did it come from? And how did that work out with the clay?
Well, we knew Monessen, the city public works in Monessen had a vac truck, and that was right off the get-go. We knew we were going to need something to move the dirt more than just shovels. So we got that on the road pretty quick and had it there in no time. And then the water company, they made it right on site, right, Chief? They made it was an air knife.
Yeah, I called them, and they had an air knife they used because it's clay, and they hooked it up. They had to make a couple connections on the hose. So the water authority has a service truck, and they had everything and anything on there, and they made the connection right there on scene. And then so we had the air hose with the knife on it, and then as they were digging the dirt, the vacuum truck was pulling the dirt out. And like I said, the water authority, I mean, there was a question about the weather. It may rain. It's going to fill with, we might have some problem with water in there. They come to me and said, don't worry about it. We got 3 pumps ready to drop in there if need be. They brought the air shores. I want to call them like an air. They look like 2 big airbags, and they have the braces in between. They set them down, and that was like our main bracing. Once they got there and got it set up, we used Carroll Township's ladder truck to drop it down there. And once we got them set up and got some air in them and stuff, I mean, it was pretty solid. So they do that stuff all the time. That really come in handy at the time.
So prior to getting that equipment there, obviously we're doing it by hand, but how many guys could you have down in the trench, like working by hand, trying to remove the dirt?
We had our 3 guys, Kerry and the 2 other ones. So Kerry's providing the patient treatment, and 2 other guys that were removing the dirt with smaller shovels. Like I said, we were lowering buckets down on rope and hauling that up out of there. And like our initial response was, like I said, Ian's worked in the hole for an hour and a half to 2 hours before we actually was able to get relief. Out of the area, guys in there to get down in there and relieve your guys. But I mean, all hands are on deck. You're trying to get plywood in place on the top, so you have a surface to work around on top. You're moving this spoil pile. You're setting up the high anchor point on the ladder truck above. We ended up setting a haul system up that we were going to use to remove him out of the hole. There was a lot of guys there, but there was a lot of work to be done. And being there for 5 or 6 hours, you don't know how many guys you're going to be rotating in and out of here. Another one, Chief Chelfont from Jefferson Hills, he was another one. He was a big hand. There was so much experience at the end here. You realize you had so much experience and knowledge of guys there. It's when you have an issue like that, you're glad to see them all there.
Right.
And it all worked out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this outcome doesn't happen too often. Usually, unfortunately, trench rescues are more often than not recoveries of bodies. So it's great to hear, successful trench rescue.
Yeah.
Charleroi is not big, but I would say if it can't happen, it will happen here.
Yeah, we have departments. We have a multi-band radios. I heard the one department, I think it was Crabtree in Westmoreland County, calling saying, "Where in the heck is Charleroi at?" And when they called Westmoreland said, go this route, go that route. So I called North Bell Vernon Fire Department. I said, "Can you go out on 70 and try to find them and get them down here?" They helped us out, and Fayette County was the same way. We called for Fayette County. I had Lower Bell Vernon meet up with them somewhere to get them into town as soon as we can. And then as we're processing through there, and I see a guy from Greene County, And I said to him, what is Greene County? He said, no, I run with Fayette County. So we had basically 5 counties of people that knew what was going on and could bring equipment and things like that. It was just something.
It's nice to know that they're there when you need them.
Yeah.
If I can give anything away to any department, or support the USAR team as much as you can. They're a valuable resource, especially for an incident like that. I mean, I never thought we'd be using them down here, but they're there when you called, and it's even. I don't think we even used any equipment from them. Just having their knowledge and experience there played the biggest part, in that.
Oh, he said, I got 48 years in the department, and you make a lot of friends. And I said, that night we were pulling all the friends out, and the guys that I haven't seen for a while. And, like I said, a Chief Kikita was there. And then from what I understand, there was another fellow from the city of Pittsburgh area was with the USAR team. So it seemed like everybody was coming out everywhere to get down here to give us a hand. And that was very much appreciated.
And looking back now, from the start, is there anything you wish you would have had on scene that you didn't have, or did everything seem to work out pretty good for you?
I mean, it was like I said, it was like a small city.
We had everything we needed. I mean, we even had a second vac truck that was started.
Right.
We started a backup vac truck just, for mechanical issues if something happened to the first one we were using. And it was getting there just as we got him out of the hole. So, I mean, maybe the pre-plan, we just started that sooner. So that was there. We had a fuel truck. I think PennDOT had a fuel truck that was filling up equipment. And even not just you said the excavator. We had you have the guy in the hole, then that excavator is on an angle on top of him. So that was something we had to eliminate too from when we first got there. We anchored that off to our rescue truck and had Bujanowski's towing come with their record truck, and we had 2 tow trucks actually hooked up to that to keep that stabilized from the backside. In that picture, you can see the wreckers are anchored off to the blade on the back of that.
Wow.
So, what was the time frame too? How long was this guy all in all in the hole before you got him out?
I think all in all, he was in the hole for 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours.
6 hours, yeah.
5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, he was probably pretty good, pretty buried for, I'd say, 5 of those hours, because I know they had to mitigate a lot of secondary collapses, and they were working real hard to make sure that they didn't get any more dirt on top of him. So again, I have to echo that. Thank God for the USAR team and all of their expertise, because like I said, we exhausted everything we had. And if it wasn't for their expertise, then this probably, it was a huge group effort, and it took 5 counties to get this guy out of the hole, and we were able to do it successfully.
And for this photo here, can you say where like that secondary collapse was? Was that on the right hand side?
So yeah, the first secondary collapse was toward the right hand side, like the right back, if you will, like towards the bottom of the picture, and then where there was
another collapse closer to where the yellow vent pipe is going down in. There was another collapse in that area too. And then even the next day when I went down to still retrieve some of the equipment that was left there overnight, that hole just kept getting bigger overnight. So you can come drive through Charleroi today and that hole's still down there. The road's still closed.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Looks more like a sinkhole.
That's what I said. It's not. You can't. I wouldn't even call it a trench because it was just such a big. It was like a crater.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it
And
worked out.
even the shoring part of it. I mean, you have guys that do it all the time, and that's just to think where you want to put this shore out to what side to this side, and it was a far shoot for them, and just awkward. And you got the bucket from the excavator right in the middle of it, and
It wasn't textbook, but it worked.
Yeah.
As everybody said, it wasn't textbook, but it worked.
Yeah.
That's all counts.
So I understand he came and visited you guys at your monthly meeting after this?
Yep.
Our monthly meeting was last week. We're sitting here getting ready to start, and this fellow comes in with crutches and his dad, and I'm like, wait a minute. I said, can we help you guys? And wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. I said, yeah. He said, I come down to thank you guys. And we said, oh, okay. So he thanked us up one side, down the other, probably some tears in his eyes, and his dad was very nice about it and said, guys, I don't know how much more I can thank you. He said, my son's standing here with me now, and we're very appreciative. And that fellow's family was good to the fire department after the fact, and yeah, it was really good to see him there.
Yeah. So Tommy basically sounds like he pretty much walked away. I mean, yeah, there was minor injuries, I guess, but pretty much just some minor scratches and bumps and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he was so ready to get out of the hole, which I don't blame him.
Yeah.
That he kind of was like, get that Stokes basket out of my way. I'm getting out of here. And he crawled up a ladder on his own and got out of the hole with a broken ankle and everything going on with his legs and everything going on with his face and everything. He had enough, which I don't blame him. But, you know, thank God he was able to walk out of there like he did.
Did he go by ambulance or did they fly him?
He went by air medical to AGH.
Okay.
Yeah, on top of that, we had 2 helicopters here. I had a good standby crew here for 5 or 6 hours. You figure, getting close to the middle of the night, guys get restless, but they hung in there. Stockdale Fire Department did our standby that night, went down and did 2 landing zones for us for the incident. And I understand some other fire departments called in outside help for standby. So thank God there was not another major incident or anything else going on. But we have to give those type of people credit too, because they covered we covered 4 boroughs, and they were covering for us plus their own. So it worked out. It just, like I said, it was very nice. Everything worked out great.
Well, I guess you had the whole business district shut down just for apparatus to park.
Oh yeah. There's trucks everywhere coming the wrong ways and blocking this and blocking that. Oh yeah, there was equipment everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you guys are definitely getting on the map for all the right reasons lately. I hope it keeps up, and really appreciate you coming on to talk about it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Great to hear the story. Awesome outcome. And I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future.
Yeah, Matt, you're a regular.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay.
All right. Another great story out of Charleroi.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I know I didn't have a lot of trench rescue training. I just maybe the sort of awareness stuff we did back in the day. But I always knew that they said pretty much anytime you go to trench rescue, it's high majority of the time is going to be recovery.
Yeah. As I was listening to that and looking at the pictures, a couple of incidents came to mind. One was the truck in front of Kmart that ran into the back of the pumpkin truck. And that guy was trapped in there for hours, and his leg had to be amputated. Billy Walls was there for hours, just like this guy was down there with him the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
We brought in, I think it was Life Flight at the time. Might have been Stat. I don't know. They were both in the mix there. We landed them in Kmart, and then we had a constant supply of blood coming in that Billy and a doctor were pushing into this guy during the whole time he was trapped in there, because it just kept coming out. And they did their best to slow it down and just kept giving him more blood. And that ended up being a successful rescue. The other one was when he was telling me, wish I had pictures of this one, but it was back in the mid 70s, back in the flash bulb days, the claret and tar pits. Have you heard that?
I think I've heard this. Yeah.
These kids were taking a shortcut, and I think their dad too. They were at a ball game, and they always took a shortcut through the claret and tar pits. But this one day, I guess they hit a soft spot, got stuck in the tar, and they slowly it's like quicksand, only very slow. They got stuck and kept sinking further and further into the tar. And the farther down they got, the hotter it got. They started to burn and everything. But they ended up getting down about to the level he was talking about. And what reminded me of that is he said his arms were free. Well, luckily their arms were free too, and they were able to put their arms on the tar. It gave it a little bit more surface area and slowed them down from sinking further into the tar. And much like that, we had our old elevated platform we put out over the tar pits, put a bunch of ladders across so we could walk out to them and everything. But we had our anchor point above them was able to slide ropes under their arms and just slowly over the course of hours, using the hydraulics, which is scary, but just slowly overtook the pressure of them falling with the pressure of lifting up the elevated platform. And eventually we pulled them out and brought them over to a safe area and let the medics get to them. They all lived too. So the other thing I take away from that is, yeah, it's been from the 70s to now. I mean, I can think of a few trench rescues. I can think of a few barge rescues where guys fall on the barge and you have to do a lot of these same similar things with ladders and anchor points and people taking care of the guy until you get him out of there. The tar pits, some crazy rope rescues. But what comes to mind is you never know when it's going to happen. So I think what's changed now is USAR is out there, and it sounds like they're ready to respond at a moment's notice with anything and everything you would ever need to make a rescue like this successful. So it's good to hear that was a good outcome, and usually when it's not.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously, even with those USAR teams and everything out there, like he was saying, the assistant chief from the city of Pittsburgh was saying that if it wasn't for their initial actions there,
Right.
The outcome would have been totally different. So,
Right. Agreed.
Obviously, I'm not a medic whatsoever, but I know that talking about giving blood in the field, you said in that incident, the doc came to the scene, I guess, was giving blood, but I guess there's some pilot programs that are starting in the area where medic units actually are going to have whole blood on them to give in the field. But I know there's an accident down in Whitehall a couple years ago, and I think that might have been the first time in the field that a medic unit actually gave whole blood, and it was apparently a big reason why that person survived in that accident. Because
Yeah, I think it's really rare, but like I said, there's times that you just don't know when, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's just crazy over the years how things change and improvements get made and stuff for the better. So
Yep.
All right. So I wanted to give another mention to our sponsor, FireCam, and remind everybody to sign up to YouTube, subscribe to YouTube. We're at 300 and let me get the exact number here on YouTube I had. We have 343 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 500 so we can give away this FireCam. So make sure you take a second, go over to YouTube and subscribe and like. I know a lot of people are watching us on Facebook now, so I think we're losing some of our YouTube traction. But also don't forget to go over to X and subscribe and like on X, and we get entered for a chance to win the FireCam BJ1000 flashlight kit. Now we're going to jump into our news segment here. So thankfully this week I don't have any firefighter fatalities to report, but I was just going to talk about some local stories mainly here. We had a fire in Castle Shannon. Unfortunately, this is a fatality. A young girl died in there. Her mother was injured. I don't know the condition on her, but the father unbelievably apparently set this fire, and he's under arrest and charged with homicide on that. But it looks like that's a photo of what the firefighters encountered when they got there. And as I said, the daughter, I believe she was 19 years old, perished in the fire. There, so our thoughts and prayers are with them and their family, and our thoughts with the Castle Shannon firefighters who were on the scene there. And we had another, unfortunately, fatal fire in Elizabeth.
Keith, I don't want to interrupt, but I did post a link on our page to help donate to that family.
Yeah, so they had a GoFundMe set up, and
Yeah.
it's on our Facebook
Yeah.
page. I forgot to mention that too.
Sorry.
And I want to get the right photo here for the it's Elizabeth Township fire. Unfortunately, here the firefighters made a grab. It sounds like it was hoarding conditions inside, but tragically, they were updated afterwards that the victim, 4-year-old, died in the hospital, UPMC Children's Hospital. But so multiple fire companies there. Another unfortunate fatal fire in our county. It seems like that's happening more and more often. And then we had a fire here in the Swissvale. This is a multi-alarm fire too. This actually started with a candle that was left on a couch, I understand, and it fell over. And they were able to make some successful grabs from that fire also. And thankfully, there was no fatalities in that one. And the other story I have here is out of Arizona. I stand corrected. This is a fatality I forgot about. Arizona ambulance crash. 2 firefighter paramedics were killed in a head-on collision. Timber Mesa Fire and Medical District. Brianna Kulowski, 31 years old, 3 years of service. And then Damian Thompson, 21 years old, less than a year on the job. So our thoughts and prayers are with their family and their fire department. The last thing I want to talk about is Deputy Chief Don Brucker from the Allegheny County Fire Marshal's Office sent me a link to the National Firefighter Cancer Registry. I watched a short video on how that's working out. So I'll put that link in our description. But what they're looking for is all firefighters to sign up to this registry. Obviously, hopefully you don't have cancer, but they want everybody to sign up to it because they are looking at those statistics of people that get cancer compared to people that don't have cancer and what they're exposed to, so they can come up with more ways to prevent cancers in the fire service. So I'll have that link in our description after, but I encourage everybody to go to there and sign up to it. Deputy Chief Brucker is going to be coming up on the podcast October 1st, so we'll talk more about that then. But I don't know if you have anything, Dan, you wanted to?
I did want to just mention that we probably should have mentioned it sooner and posted this, but we're always looking for people to be on. I think the podcast is always going to be more interesting with guests, and topics can be anything. So if anybody has any suggestions or anybody wants to be on, reach out to, is it third due first in at Gmail?
Yep.
And let us know or make any suggestions you have. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to people's suggestions, what they'd like to see on the podcast in the future. And we appreciate everybody watching, subscribing. And we can't go away without saying hello to Deputy Chief Geno.
There we go again.
I don't hear you, Geno.
My fault. I had my mute off. My fault.
At least it wasn't the cat this time.
No. How's everybody doing?
Good. Are you?
Good.
Great episode today, guys.
You busy tonight?
No, and now that you jinxed me, we probably will be.
Of course. My sole purpose in life.
Right. Well, I mean, if we're going to end up the show here, I'd like to say a few things before we end. And the one thing that I want to say about is, and I don't know if you guys know this or not, but 5 police officers were shot in northern York this afternoon, and 3 of them succumbed to their injuries. All I can say, everybody that's watching tonight, is head on a swivel. We're living in a dangerous world right now. This country's a little bit upside down. So
it is.
To end that, I'll end it with my saying, just try not to suck and watch your 6. All right, guys.
Gene.
All right. Be safe, Gene. Everybody
All
be
right.
safe out there. Catch you guys next week at 7 p.m.
See you.